Okay, so we're going to finish up today talking about how to create a culture of success in your business. So far, this has been kind of a three-part series we talked about. It's based on the podcast, The Ambition Coalition, that Melissa Eichenhorst and Rebecca Folks have created. So go listen to that along with listening to these. I think listening to both at the same time is super helpful in getting different perspectives on the way they see these ingredients that they have set out. And there's also a little workbook that goes along with it, which you can find. I'll post it in the link to wherever I drop these videos. And if you are actually just stumbling upon these videos, you can find it on their Instagram account. So the first ingredient so far that we have talked about is number one is integrity. And this is not the type of integrity that is like, oh, you're a good person. This is the integrity of like how strong, think of like the integrity of a rope, like how strong something is. Like, are you doing the things that you tell your team to do? Are you like really in the nitty gritty of your business as a leader? Because your team will follow you as their leader. The second one was creating a culture of united vision, purpose, and belief. The third one was creating systems for duplication. The fourth one was plugging into company culture. Number 5 was daily communication, and 6 was recognition. And so those are the ones we've already talked about. And today we're going to dive into 7 and 8, which the seventh one is building relationships with your team. And this is really like the icing of culture. And I think when people think of company culture, this is the first thing that they think of. It's like, what is our culture? I think of what is our relationships like? So this is a pretty obvious one with company culture, but it's also one we don't ever want to neglect. And so building those relationships, and I will say, I did not do a very good job of this in my earlier years as a leader because it was very hard for me as a leader with that line between leading my team and being their friend, and which sounds like those would be easy, but I think my biggest issue was I don't do well with constructive criticism. I just don't. Like, I never have. And so if I got any like feedback as a leader, like it crushed my soul. And then I felt like, oh, they don't like me. Like, we can't be friends. And so in order to like preserve my feelings, I set boundaries, which was not wise. Like, I should have learned how to get over being so overly sensitive and instead focused on those relationships and learn to accept that constructive criticism. And so this is something that's kind of taking me, some time to like, settle into as a leader, which I think we're all going to have these areas that are harder than others, which building relationships should be easy. This is actually what I'm good at. But for some reason as a leader, it just got tricky for me. And so don't neglect this part of culture because it really is. It is the first thing that you should consider when you think of culture is how are those relationships? Are you friends with all your leaders? Do you know their why? But it's even more than just the business part. Like Melissa talks about this in the podcast, and she talks about all the important things of the business part of that relationship, like really knowing the why of people on their team. So when they come to you discouraged, you're able to remind them of their why and working together with them and doing things like that. One thing that her team, I've watched them do over the last 10 years is the last day of the month, they all eat sushi. And they don't eat it together. Sometimes, a couple of them will go out together to eat sushi, but they're all eating sushi on the last day of the month. So they'll take pictures of their sushi, they'll Zoom together with their sushi. It's just it's sometimes little things like that are just really fun ways to build those relationships and bring everybody together for just some little common goal as, eating sushi on the last day of the month, because they know it's going to be a hard day. It's going to be a busy day. So let's do something fun and frivolous. But I also really think an important part of this building relationships is going even deeper than the business side and like really knowing their families, knowing their kids, like, asking how tryouts went, if their kid try out for soccer or whatever it was. And, just really being invested in especially like your level ones and your leaders on your team, the ones who are your top runners, being invested in their families. Because if you're connected in a way that goes deeper than just our surface plexus work, they're going to stick with you much longer. They're going to stick with you forever. If you have created that relationship with that person that shows that you actually care about them. Like you're invested in their family. You want to know how things are. That is what's going to have the help those leaders of yours be lifers here in Plexus, because you've created this culture of family among everybody. And so that's what our goal is when we're building these relationships with our teams, is just really just loving them and getting to know them. And that is your job as a leader, is just to love your team hard. And I'm sorry for y'all on my team that has taken some time for me to figure this out. And then the last ingredient that we're talking about here within this ingredients of building this culture of success is empowering your leaders. This is something that is, some of us that are control freaks have a harder time like empowering our leaders and giving people just kind of like leadership roles. I think sometimes for me, it's not like a control freak. For me, it's like a, maybe it is. For me, it's more like, I don't want to like burden other people. I think sometimes I want to do things for everybody, not because I want to enable you, but because I want to make your life easier. Like, I'll take care of it. And I do this within my family. I'm like, I'll take care of it because I just want everything to be easier for everybody else. But really think about that, like within our children, like, oh my gosh, none of my kids know how to do laundry. They know how to cook an amazing meal, but none of them know how to wash a shirt. And so I have completely enabled them as my son is about to go off to college. I'm like having to do laundry lessons here. Like, here's what you do. And I'm like, gosh, I was doing a disservice by not empowering them to be able to do basic skills. When for a while, sometimes it feels like you're being helpful and you're doing good things, but don't underestimate the importance of empowering, especially your new and upcoming leaders. You see these new people coming up and they just hit the rank of senior silver or gold. And to them, that's a really, really big deal. And it is to everyone, it should be a really, really big deal. But I think sometimes for us that are higher up leaders or jewels that have been in the company a long time, we've seen golds come and go, and we underestimate how impactful that rank is and how impactful empowering it would be to them if we gave them leadership roles. Ask them to go live in your team page, ask them to lead a call, and don't feel like you're trying to put your work off onto somebody else, because it's not what we're doing. While it might do that, like it might take some things off your plate, but at the same time, while you're taking things off your plate, you're empowering your leaders to feel like they are part of this community. I know some people have done this, and I'm not criticizing you when I say this, but I never wanted my team name to be Team Hinkle. And sometimes you see people do this, and sometimes people did this in the beginning, not really thinking about the effect of it. And over time, I've seen people change their names. But if you call your team just your own name, then the team is just about you. It's not about everyone that's on the team. And you want to have a culture where every single person feels like they're a part of that team and not like it's just my team. Like, I don't want y'all to ever feel like you're just on my team. Like, we are one big team, Plex It Forward, and we're all an important part of this team. Everybody has something different to bring to the table. Everybody has different strengths, and everyone's strengths are unique. And so it's so important to find those strengths. And this goes back to building those relationships, and why that part is like step one of these two things. Because if you haven't built the relationship with that person, you may not know their strength. I'm not going to go to Jaja, who is one of the diamonds on my team, and ask her to go live on my team page, because I know that that is not her strength and not her favorite thing to do. Unless maybe I'm going to ask her to, like, do a training over Project Broadcast. She might be willing to do pre-record a video on that, or hop on a Zoom and talk some people through it. And so, because I know that that's something that she's really good at, but something that she doesn't love to do is public speaking. It's not her jam. And that's, we want people to step outside of their comfort zone sometimes, but sometimes it's really important to look at what are they actually really good at and utilize them for that, instead of always pushing people into things that maybe isn't their strength. It's, kind of like they talk about the body of Christ, and everybody has a spiritual gift and we all have something different to bring to the table. very much the same way within your team. It's very much the same way to like try to like find the different strengths, know your people, know what they're good at, and help them bring that to the table within your greater team. And that's going to create this culture that everybody feels like they have a seat at the table. Everybody feels like they have, something to bring to that table when they sit down. And I just heard thunder. The storms are coming in. We have massive storms coming into Houston right now. So pray for flights to Vegas tomorrow to go out successfully. But so I've just really, really loved this whole topic in this podcast. Again, go listen to the other one too. There's just some really great little nuggets in it. And it's so important for us to remember how vital culture is. I don't want you to ever feel like you are building this. If you feel like you're building your Plexus team all by yourself, then there's got you that's not going to get you to diamond. You cannot get to diamond by yourself. You need the whole greater team, and you need that culture. And it is your job as a leader to create that culture within your team. So hopefully these 8 things have been helpful to you. I know they have been to me. And thank you guys for listening.